Hello everyone. I think you all can hear me properly. If there are any issues with the clarity of the audio, just send me a message. I think everything is fine until now. If anyone is unable to listen to me properly, just send me a message. But I think it's okay. You all can hear me. I'm just trying to add everyone to the class. So just bear with me for 1 or 2 minutes until I accept most of your friends to the class. Okay. So we will start the class in 2-3 minutes. So if you don't have the copy of the poem, just have it with you. So in today's lesson, we are going to see the sonnet 130, which was written by William Shakespeare. The starting of the sonnet is "My Mistress Eyes." Just keep that with you, please. Okay, we have only 1 minute left to start the class. Okay. It's good. We have only a limited crowd today, so that I don't have to accept when they enter a little later, and it will limit the time that I spend on accepting them. Okay, let's start the class. Can you see the screen? Yeah, I am sharing the screen and you can see that. So we have the sonnet with us now, okay, on the screen. Okay. Okay, right. In today's lesson, we are going to see the sonnet 130, which is also known as My Mistress Eyes, which was written by William Shakespeare. Before we go inside the lesson and try to understand them line by line, I would like to recite the sonnet to you all. Right. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun? If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go, my mistress when she walks treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. So this is the sonnet that we are going to deal with today. So as you can see, there are 14 lines, 14 lines in this sonnet, right? Just like all the other sonnets, this also has 14 lines, right? These 14 lines could be divided into 4 sections. From here, my mistress, to if hairs be wires, this is one stanza, one paragraph. From here, I to this, then second stanza, and then again I, from this I to my third stanza. So each stanza here has 4 lines. Try to understand that one. Each stanza has 4 lines, and the last 2 lines, they are rhyming together. See here, rare rhymes with compare. So we call these last two lines rhyming couplet. In the following minutes, I'm going to explain the structure of Shakespeare's sonnets and then how they differ from the other types of sonnets in the next few minutes. When it comes to that, the structure, when it comes to the structure, I will discuss about that in detail. Right. Now let's go to the introduction of the poet. Right. Let's see. Every time you read a sonnet or poem or something that is related to literature, you should know the author, the poet who has written that. When it comes to Shakespeare, you have to put more effort on understanding him, because in every semester you have a poem or even you have a play which was written by William Shakespeare. So William Shakespeare was an English poet. He was born in England. He was an English poet, and he was born on 26th April 1564. He didn't live much in this world. He lived only for 52 years, but the work that he had done within those 52 years is immeasurable. It's really commendable. And he died on 23rd April 1616. He died at this in this year. Shakespeare produced most of his known work between 1589 and 1613. So it's not a long period of time, right? Especially Shakespeare wrote sonnets, plays which are called dramas, verses, and he has written some long poems also. So when it comes to the plays, which means the dramas, there are 2 types of dramas which were written by Shakespeare. They are called comedies and tragedies. You know, in the comedy is the fun factors. When it comes to the tragedies, in the tragedies, most of the times or every time the heroes die. So it is something sorrowful, something that gives sadness to the reader. Right. Here you see the most prominent plays which were written by Shakespeare are Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, and all these things. Right. After understanding the poet, let's go to let's discuss in detail about the Shakespeare's sonnets. you know one thing, Shakespeare is not the only one who wrote the sonnets, right? Shakespeare, even though Shakespeare's sonnets are known as English sonnets, there are some other poets also. Uh, there are some other poets who also wrote sonnets, but they were quite different from Shakespeare's sonnets as far as the themes and the structure are concerned. You know, when it comes to Shakespeare sonnets, it had 14 lines. As I said before, they were divided into three quatrain, as it has been mentioned here. They were divided into three quatrains. Each quatrain had 14 lines, which means 4 into 3, 12. So the final couplet, the remaining two lines, they are called couplet, and then since they rhymed with, the one line rhymed with the another one, they called it rhyming couplet. So what is the function of the rhyming couplet? The rhyming couplet summarizes, right? It summarizes the idea which was mentioned in the previous lines. How many lines previously mentioned? 12 lines. In those 12 lines, in three quatrains, Shakespeare gives an idea, and in the last two lines, he summarizes what he wanted the reader to get out of the sonnet, right? So we can call it the theme also. In those two rhyming, in that one rhyming couplet, the entire theme of the poem can be found. So if you want to find out the theme of any sonnet which was written by Shakespeare, what you have to do is you will have to go simply to the rhyming couplet to find out the theme of that. So as was mentioned before, Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets with various themes, right? 154 sonnets. Every time he wrote a sonnet, he wrote that keeping someone in his mind, right? He wrote the sonnets for three types, three characters. For an example, when you read a sonnet, okay, who did he write this for? You can ask this question, because the poet William Shakespeare, he used to write the sonnets to certain people. So those three are fair youth. That means William Shakespeare, right, had a connection with a fair youth. It is said like that. He had a connection. He was in love with a fair youth, and he admired the beauty of that young person, and he wrote poems describing his beauty. This is what critics mention. The people who criticize or write descriptions about Shakespeare's sonnets and poems, they say that he had a fair youth in his mind, and he had the connection with him, and he loved and admired his beauty, and he wrote some sonnets to that person. The second one is his mistress. His mistress is the dark lady who he had the connection with apart from his own wife. The third one is the rival poets. You know, all the poets, they have rivalries. They have. Give me a second. Huh? Give me a second. Okay, excuse me. Okay, right. All the poets, they have had rivalries. They had some opposing poets, some, like we can say, enemies in literature. So poet wrote some poems in order to attack them. The poem that we are dealing now is also partially involved, partially connected with the rivalry that he had with the other poets. So let's discuss in detail in the upcoming minutes. How about the themes? What are the themes of the sonnets? The themes of the sonnets are beauty, time, immortality, selfishness, right? These are the themes of the poems of, sonnets of William Shakespeare, right? Good. Now let's go to the next topic related to our sonnet. Okay, when you see here, the first line, my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. In order for you all to understand the entire right reason for writing this sonnet, I'm going to explain first this line. My mistress, that means I have a beautiful woman that I have connection with. Her eyes, they are not like the sun. You see here, Shakespeare says, my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. They are not like the sun. So here, what you understand is the poet is supposed to say the good things about his loved one. But instead of saying that her eyes are like sun, or else my mistress' eyes are bright like sun, he is saying my mistress' eyes have nothing to do with the sun. They are not as bright as sun. So this is a negative point that the poet starts with. So okay, that is one of the important things that you have to understand about this sonnet, right? The poet says the flows of, here, just focus here, flows of her body, or that means negative aspects of her body, her smell when she speaks, what type of breath comes, whether it's like a fragrant, or whether it's a fragrance, or whether it's something that is disgusting, something that is offensive, her smell, how, right, does he sound when she speaks, how is her voice. He is saying the flows, negative ideas of all these things. Why? Because the poet wants to make fun of his rival poets. You know, his rival poets, right? They most of the times they explain, they compare the beauty of their loved ones to the sun, to the roses, to the what else you can say, fragrance, nice smell, all these things. They explain their beauty. They compare the beauty of them to all these natural, beautiful things, right? But sometimes they exaggerate, they overdo that, right? When somebody says my lover's eyes are like sun, it's a kind of exaggeration. This is the fact that the poet Shakespeare was not happy about. So he wanted to make fun of them. What is this you are saying? You are saying that your loved one's eyes are like sun? No, but I don't see anything like that in my loved one. That means in my mistress' eyes. That's what poet is saying here. Okay? Now you see here, where can we find these type of over exaggeration? These type of over exaggerations could be found in the poems of Petrarch, in the Petrarchian poems. Petrarch is a Italian poet who also wrote sonnets, and the poet had a rivalry, okay, like a type of enmity with that poet as far as the literature is concerned, and he just wanted to mock him. He just wanted to make fun of his explanations and comparisons. That's what William Shakespeare wrote this poem for, right? After understanding the things which have been included in Shakespeare's sonnet 130. I'm going to take you all into the sonnet one more time, once again, so that I can explain it further, line by line, in order for you all to get the complete idea of the sonnet. Okay, let's start with the first line. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. I have already explained this one, right? In this line, poet says, my wives, my mistress, my lover's eyes are nothing like the sun. They cannot be compared to the sun. They have no quality of the sun with them. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If you say that the lips are red like corals, right? Obviously, my lover's lips are red. Okay, fine. But I can't compare them to the coral because they are more red. They are more reddish than my loved one's lips red. Okay. If snow be white, if you say that snow is white, right? Why then her breasts are dun? Dun is, right, brownish gray in color. Brownish gray in color. Here I have mentioned dun means brownish gray. Okay, the poet asks from the other poets or the reader who reads this, if you say that snow is white, then why my loved ones, my lovers chest is gray, brownish gray? Brownish gray is a color that most of the women, they wouldn't accept to have, or it's not a fair or good comparison or good color to mention the body, explain the body of a woman, right? And the next one, if hairs be wires, if the hairs are wires, okay, here in this one, black wires grow on her head. In the poet here uses a metaphor, right? He says, in my lover's head, black wires are growing. Black wires are growing in my lover's. So, or else you can say my lover's hair is black as wires. Then it will be a simile. But here directly he says, black wires grow on her head. That means he is using a metaphor. They are black and they are like wires. That's what he wanted to say in this line. Okay, let's go to the next quatrain. I have seen roses damasked. That means damask means connected one another. That means woven together as fabrics. You know, fabric, when they weave, they connect one string with the another, right? So I have seen roses woven together as fabric in red and white colors, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. That means I don't see those roses in her cheeks, in the cheeks of my lover. My lover's cheeks are not rose. That's what he said. You have studied a poem called Rose Cheek Laura in, I think, in the first semester, in which the poet said, right, his loved one's cheek was rosy. But here the poet says, no, 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 no. I have seen red and white roses everywhere, but my loved ones, my lovers' cheeks, I don't see any roses. If you compare someone's cheek into roses, that's not fair because I don't see them in my lover's eyes, sorry, cheeks. And in some perfumes, is there more delight? Some perfumes, they give more happiness. or a very good fragrance than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. Reeks means unpleasant smell that comes from the mouth of a person. When someone breathes out, right? If an unpleasant smell comes, they are reeking that out. So here, the poet tried to say that, right? Simply, if you tell that you are, he is talking to the rival poets. He is talking to the poets who say that their loved ones, when they speak, a smooth or pleasant fragrance that is coming from their mouth. But the poet here, the Shakespeare says, no, no, it's not like that. There are more pleasing perfumes in the world, but when my mistress speaks, or when my mistress breathes out, what she expels out is the bad smell, right? Just imagine you saying to a girl, right, in your class, when you speak, bad smell comes from your mouth, so it's not going to be something acceptable by that particular person. It's so offensive. But the poet says that, poet here, he says that, but even though he says all these things, there could be something surprising coming to all of us in the upcoming few lines. I love to hear her speak. I love to hear her speak. That's a very clear sentence. Yet, it means but, still, well, I know that music hath, hath means has a far more pleasing sound. Pleasing means something that gives you comfort, solace, happiness. Music, I can't compare my wife or my lovers or mistress words when they speak to the music, because some music, they have more pleasing sound than she speak, but still I love to hear her speak, right? So some poets have compared the words that come from the women or their lovers to the music, but the poet in these two lines tries to prove to us, no, 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 this music has has more pleasing sound than the words that come from my mistress. And next one, I grant, I grant, I never, I grant, I never saw a goddess go. I grant means I accept, I accept. Okay, I accept that, I admit that I have never seen a goddess. Goddess means the feminine, female version of the god, female version of the god. Okay, god, goddess, right? I have never seen a goddess go means walk on the earth, right? My mistress, when she walks, she just walks on the ground. My mistress, when she walks, right, she walks on the ground. I can't compare my mistress to a goddess, because all what she does is she simply walks on the ground. Goddess, they may fly in the sky, they may soar in the sky, but my mistress, she simply walks on the ground. Besides, I have never seen a goddess in my life. Right, good. Now see the last two lines, which are called rhyming couplet, right? Here you see they are rhyming here. R is rhyming with compare. R is rhyming with compare, and yet, focus over here, and yet, still, right? By heaven, still, by heaven, right? The poet is promising on the heaven, I think my love as rare. Rare means wonderful here. The meaning of rare is wonderful. So that means my love means my mistress is as wonderful as any, just like any She means woman, just like any woman. Belied means like misrepresented, falsified, all right? With false compare. This this rhyming couplet needs a little bit of translation here, right? The poet says, the speaker thinks, that means the poet thinks that his lover is as wonderful as any woman who was ever misrepresented by an exaggerated comparison. His lady, his mistress, is also beautiful, right? Just see, her mouth can expel bad smell, her color can be done, right? Maybe there's no roses on her cheek, maybe, right? Bad qualities can be there. It doesn't mean that she is not beautiful. She is beautiful, just like the other women who have been misrepresented by the poets, the other poets. I think this line is quite clear, because in the first quatrain, second quatrain, third quatrain, in all these quatrains, okay, stanzas in another word, the poet has clearly mentioned the bad sides of the flaws. In another word, we can say flaws of his lady, right? His lady. But even though she has a lot of flaws, she is as beautiful as the other women who have been misrepresented by the other poets with inappropriate comparisons. For an example, let's see rose cheek Laura. Her cheeks are rose. She must be beautiful, right? Because Thomas Campion, I think, he mentioned her beauty in a clear manner. But here, poet, right? Shakespeare said his dark mistress, she had a lot of flaws in her, but that doesn't mean she was not beautiful. That is what the poet tries to prove in his poem. I hope this last rhyming couple is very clear to you all, right? There are a few more things that you have to focus, right? See, points to consider. We have 6 minutes left until we end our session today. This is an unusual poem because it turns the idea of a female beauty on its head. That means other way around, and offers the reader an alternative view of what it's like to love a woman, right? It's, and then you see why why did the poet write this? Just to mock the patriarchy and exaggerations. The theme of the poem is sonnet is love with all the defects. Defects means flaws. And then another one, nobility of imperfection, right? She is imperfect, but there is nobility in that. There is a great thing in being imperfect. That's poet. That's what tries to the poet tries to prove. Let's focus on the figurative language of this sonnet. There are few techniques that the poet has used in his poem. First one is simile. The first line of the sonnet itself starts with simile. Here you can see that my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Here the poet compares the sun to the beauty or the eyes of the mistress. So this is a sonnet. Metaphor. Metaphor is the comparison without the use of like or as. Black wires grow on her head is the is the metaphor. Here, as I told you earlier, instead of saying her hair is as black as her hair is as black as wires, instead of saying like that, black wires grow on her head, she has said like this. Here the poet hasn't used as or like to compare the hair to the black wire. Next one is images. The poem is full of very clear images. See, you can imagine white snow, dun-colored breasts, hair like black wires, red and white roses. These are the images that have been given to you all by the poet. The last one is the alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition, repeating of consonant sounds or letters at the beginning of each word or words, most of the words in a line. See here, I grant I never saw a goddess go. Here, you may all know G is a consonant sound. In this line, G has been repeated several times, so we call this technique as alliteration. These techniques have been used. Right, those are the things that I wanted to discuss with you all today in our session. I hope you all enjoyed and understood clearly about the sonnets. You see, I gave you a brief explanation on the structure of the sonnets, which were comprised of 3 quatrains and a rhyming couplet, plus a simple introduction about Shakespeare and his plays also was given. And further, I could give you a like complete explanation on what is that on the line by line on every line of this sonnet. I hope you all benefited from this. Please support us by leaving your comments and suggestions in the WhatsApp group, and plus please let your friends also join us in the upcoming classes. Thank you so much. Until we meet in our next session. Thank you.